All right, building bridges. That's the message Syrian President Bashar Assad is hoping his Arab brethren will embrace as he seeks their assistance to rebuild his country after 8 years of civil war, following a failed rebellion and also a fallen ISIS caliphate. But the U.S. is applying pressure in the other direction, threatening sanctions that would be triggered. So joining us now to break it all down, former Pentagon official Mike Maloof. All right, Mike, so many of these other Arab states, namely like the UAE, for example, are on the fence on whether or not to help Bashar al-Assad after they themselves, including the UAE, helped arm the rebellion against him. But now they worry he's beholden to Iran after, as we know, Iran helped him defeat the coup attempt. So explain this to us. Why would they help him, or should they even help him?
Well, they've even gone so far as to try to invite him back into the Arab League because he was out for so many years. The reality is that they envision not only getting in on the restructuring of Syria, but mainly to try to maintain an influence and try to form a bridge that will, or an obstacle rather, to any further Iranian influence. Actually, the United States, by warning the GCC countries against that, is actually working against its own interests, and which is normal. And as a consequence, the policy is in disarray once again. And and even the UAE and even Saudi Arabia and Egypt all have sort of paused, even though the embassy for the UAE is supposed to be opening. Right. Now, Saudi Arabia and UAE had agreed to help restructuring east of the Euphrates, which is in an area that the U.S. has sought to partition because it occupies it right now. But for the area that the government controls under Assad, that's still questionable. And and as a consequence, they are not being able to show the kind of influence that they want in Syria, and the United States feels that it is basically shooting itself in the foot against its policy of wanting to restrict Iran.
So so that's going to be supposed to be everybody that's involved except for Syria. Their goal is to blunt Iran. So we have heard in the past strong words from the former UN ambassador Nikki Haley in the past saying Assad's got to go. Now she's gone. Assad's still there. Does the U.S. just need to accept the fact that he is the leader for the foreseeable future and find a way to deal with this diplomatically?
Well, it depends on what day it is. The U.S. has at one time wanted him out. Right. Then they basically agreed, well, he's there to stay.
Right. No regime change.
Yeah. No regime change. Now they want him out again. Again, this once again shows the conflict in U.S. policy. He's there to stay for a while, at least until they can ultimately hold elections, and he's still backed up by the Russian government. The other thing is that even though the GCC countries are concerned that they will lose out on influence, you still have Russia and China that want to come in and assist on the reconstruction. And the United States has threatened the GCC countries with sanctions if they want to do that. Well, you're going to threaten Russia and China with sanctions? I mean, Russia's sanctioned out. I mean, there's just nothing more to sanction.
Like, add another one. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. What the hell?
But with China, it's a different story because of the precarious nature of the
trade war that's happening now.
That's correct.
So they don't want to touch that if China gets involved.
And that's why China also has an exemption, if you will, from sanctions in its oil dealings with Iran right now, which is very intriguing.
It's all very intermixed.
Yes.
So speaking of Russia, they were instrumental, obviously, in helping Assad defeat ISIS and kind of somewhat keeping his country intact. They seem to believe that the Arab states should rebuild their relationships with Assad rather than work against him if they truly want to blunt Turkey and Iran's influence. So how about that? Is that a better strategy, is to get more flies with honey?
Well, theoretically, sure. But that goes contrary to what the U.S. wants. Sure, the GCC countries want to get back into Syria because they see this as an opportunity to blunt Iran, as we've discussed. Russia is not totally wedded to Assad as Iran is. Iran is really determined that Assad must stay at all costs. Russia is a little different.
They're flexible.
Yeah, a little more flexible. If they could find a Sunni, for example, because the country itself, Syria, is 80% Sunni. If they could find one that would be compatible with the Shia and the Sunnis, they'd buy into it, like Talas, Talas.
It sounds like they're just more interested in keeping the peace rather than
maintaining the peace,
is particular,
bringing the country back together, keeping government control as much as they can, and that's what they're trying to do. Russia also continues to have influence over Iran's influence within Syria, and contrary to what the U.S. and what Israel is saying. But there is an ability there to influence Iran. Iran is there to stay as well.
At least for the time being. So Iran's there for the time being. Assad is there for the time being.
Well, they're also in Lebanon. They basically control Lebanon.
Well, we'll save that for another talk. So we got to leave that right there. Thank you, as always, for sharing your expertise. Mike Maloof.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.